Welcome to the Articulate Women Podcast, Season 3, Parables. I am your host, Melissa. I started this podcast 4 years ago after my divorce when I finally found my voice. And it's been on and off, but now my hope is that doing it together with my best friend, Desiree, that we can build a more consistent platform to have conversations about faith and healing. By trade, I am a nonfiction LDS writer and have recently began a career as a mental health counselor, so we will be periodically talking about the intersection of faith and mental health. I'm a single mom with 7-year-old twins and love to read, and this season I have a co-host, Desiree.
I am your co-host, Desiree. have been married for almost 30 years, and I have one daughter who is almost 25. I'm a director at a trust company, and I have been a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints my whole life, but I consider myself to be a convert to the gospel. My hope in this podcast with Melissa is to help people who feel that they don't fit in with the typical LDS mold to know that there is a place for them and that Jesus loves them, and also to highlight how mental health issues make it hard to have faith and to believe. And I hope to bring awareness and healing to those who need it through genuine discussions between friends.
This season, we'll be focusing on the parables of Jesus and have discussions about how they relate to us and how their messages can help us to better understand our own journey with God. The parables were preached by Jesus in simple terms so that anyone could understand them, and in ways that could apply to anyone today. Our goal is to help find the messages in these parables of old that God wants us to know today. Today, we will be talking about the parable of the 10 virgins. Especially after conference, because it was mentioned 4 times. I thought it was 3, but it was 4.
There were 4. It was mentioned a lot.
Yes.
And that has to mean something.
Yes. And so, especially given the fact that conference was ended with, yo, Jesus is coming soon. You better get ready.
Yep.
We thought pondering on the 10 virgins would be a good thing for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to start, we're just going to kind of outline what the parable is so that we can kind of delve in and like pick it apart, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so where do we find the 10 virgins in the scriptures, Melissa?
That's a great question, Desiree. It is in Matthew chapter 25, and a little bit of context here. This is during Holy Week.
Oh, even better.
Yes, so in a few chapters prior, Jesus enters into Jerusalem and he cleanses the temple and he calls out the Pharisees. He talks about the second coming in chapter 23 and 24 and also predicts or prophesies, I guess, the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And so this is where we leave off, and we have 2 chapters, I think, just 1 chapter, because in chapter 26 he does the Passover and introduces the sacrament, and then we have Garden of Gethsemane and all that. So this is what we would say probably is Tuesday of Holy Week, when Christ is teaching and using all these cool parables. So just to get your head wrapped around of like when in Christ's life we're talking about, because that's totally crucial to know that he's going to die in a couple days.
Yeah.
And he needs everyone to know, like, look, I'm coming back and it's going to be a big deal and you better be ready.
Well, that's really interesting that because I actually didn't know that. See, Melissa is the historian here and the scriptorian here. So she knows where everything is and I just kind of talk about it. But it's interesting that this is when it is that he brings the parable of the 10 virgins out, because it's all about being prepared.
Yeah.
And so he's preparing his apostles and his disciples for the fact that he's going to be gone.
Yep.
But then also it's for us, preparing us for when he's coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's even cooler is that if we look at the rest of chapter 25, which we'll talk about in a minute, he gives us more than one way to prepare for his coming. Parable of 10 virgins. So we have 10 women who have brought their oil lamps with them to basically wait for the bridegroom to welcome them into the wedding feast.
That's it.
Yes. We were a little confused earlier, so we've got to straighten our heads now. The wedding feast. And so basically they don't know when it's going to happen. And they have their lamps, and 5 of them brought their lamps plus an extra carafe of oil, and 5 of them just brought their lamps thinking, oh, we'll have enough
Yeah.
It won't be too long. We'll be fine.
They're thinking he's not going to make us wait that long, right? They were way too optimistic.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point that I feel like is crucial because we want things to happen faster.
We do.
We're very impatient people.
We are. We're like, surely he's not going to, make us wait that long. I mean, long enough for our oil to run out of our lamp to run out of oil.
Surely we will not be in this trial forever. As we laugh sarcastically.
Said every person in a trial that you feel like you were in it forever.
Yes. And so I think part of this is, fostering patience because the Lord's timing is perfect.
Right.
And ours is impatient.
And thinking of that now, how many podcasts or YouTube channels or any other places that you go where people are trying to predict,
oh my gosh,
when Christ is coming back? They like how many? There's so many.
Yes.
And they're like, because this is happening and this is happening in the world, and they're just, we think it's going to be not maybe necessarily the exact day, but they think that they can pinpoint, maybe even some to a month, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of YouTubers that someone in my life followed in 2020 because there was this belief that...
Wasn't he a pastor or something?
I don't
of
remember.
Another church. I thought so. Yeah.
But that the Hosanna shout was like the beginning of the next dispensation.
Oh.
Or the opening of the seventh seal, like crazy stuff in Revelation. And because President Nelson had us do the Hosanna shout in April of 2020 during COVID at conference, a lot of people were like, oh snaps, this is like meaningful and Jesus is going to come soon.
Yeah.
And so people kind of got wrapped up in like trying to predict it and kind of got off course. For me, it's like you're missing the mark. Like, sure, it'd be cool to know like when it's going to happen, but that's not the point.
Well, and I'm sure, like, remember because it was COVID happening too, and everybody was like, oh, this is a huge trial. They're shutting everything down. And it was kind of falling in line, and they did the Hosanna shout, and it was like, oh, Yeah. And you know what? I got wrapped up in a little in it, but not so much of like, okay, if this doesn't happen this year, then I'm going to like fall apart. But it was kind of like, yeah, maybe, Yeah,
because it was such an unprecedented time that it was just easy to latch on to like, okay, maybe this is the beginning of the end, the beginning of tribulations and all of the crazy stuff that we know about in the scriptures that it's going to get worse before he shows up.
Right.
It's easy to want to latch onto that. But the idea, again, is that we don't know when he's coming.
Right.
And so these 10 virgins are like, we don't know when he's coming. So we do have to be prepared.
Yeah. So 5 of them thought that.
So 5 of them were like, okay,
let's be prepared.
And make sure we're ready. All 10 of the virgins actually fell asleep. Then someone cried out and was like, hey, the bridegroom's coming. Come and meet him.
Oh.
This is verse 6. And then all of the virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. So we're talking like old school oil lamps. So you would have this like ceramic, like terracotta clay kind of a lamp. And you'd have a piece of string inside the lamp, and it would go out.
You basically turn it up, and then it would light again. And then you'd have enough to like, that's, I think, the trimming part, right?
Yep. So they had to like allow for more oil to keep burning. And so then as they awoke, the 5 foolish virgins were like, hey, I don't have any more oil. Like, can I borrow some of yours? And the 5 wise were like, if we share, we're not going to have enough either. So you got to go buy some more. Like, go quick because he's coming.
Yeah, so they leave, and the 5 that are like, okay, so they're like, we'll just go find somewhere, and they had to go and get some more, and while they were gone, the bridegroom came.
Yep, and so in verse 10 it says, and while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. And then afterwards, the 5 foolish virgins came up, and they were banging on the door, basically, like, Lord, let us in. And in verse 12 he says, verily I say unto you, I know you not.
Now that, I mean, think about that. You're like, oh my gosh, you waited all night. You waited all this time. You didn't bring enough oil. You ran out of oil. You ran real quick to go get some more, but it probably was not real quick because nothing was real quick back then.
Yeah, who knows how far they were from a merchant or whatever to buy the oil. And then in verse 13, we kind of get like a warning. And it says, "Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh."
Yeah.
I looked at another translation just to see if there's anything interesting. This is from the Christian Standard Bible, so the CSB. And instead of saying, "Verily I say unto you, I know you not," he says in verse 12, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you."
Wow.
Which feels a little bit more like
a
bummer.
Yeah. See, and that's where I was getting like, I was like, man, that's not like my Jesus. He's not harsh like that. Like, hey, you screwed up, so I don't know you. And that's kind of the way it sounds, but I know that's like not what it means. Like, this is the final hour. Like, we screw up daily all the time, and we have infinite chances to get it right. But when it comes down to the final,
yeah,
like,
that's it. Final judgment. the ballot has been cast.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of felt like, man, that's so harsh. And I felt really bad for those 5 that were just kind of like, we'll be okay, Yeah.
And it makes me think like that they were just casual about it.
Casual. That's a good word.
And I think there was a talk a couple of years ago about casual discipleship versus like intentional discipleship. Sure. And I think it's so easy to get caught in like the routine of things.
It is.
And really just be like plugging along, doing your thing. And not get really caught up in the power of like what God's trying to teach you or trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Or what you need to improve.
I've so done that like so many times in my life I can't even count. Like where it's like I will get like so gung ho, and it's like I want to do all the things, I want to be the great disciple and everything, but life just keeps happening.
Yep.
Day after day, there's life again smacking you in the face. And you're just like, I just don't have it in me. And you go one day of like, I just don't have it in me. I just don't, I'm just going to not read my scriptures. I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to, and sometimes, and I don't even want to pin it to that, because I'll tell you, I don't read my scriptures every day, and I don't pray every day. I mean, out loud. I feel like I carry a prayer in my heart constantly, but I'm not intentional about, just having a conversation with him every day, because I've just always been bad at that.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like I've always struggled with consistency. I'll have like ebbs and flows. And since I write, like if I'm actively working on a project, I'll spend a ton of time in the scripture studying a topic.
Yeah.
And read all over the place, like playing scripture chase with the topic I'm trying to study.
Yeah.
But day to day, I find myself getting bored, which sounds totally really bad.
No, I get it. I fall asleep when I read, which is why I don't read. I'm not a reader. I'm not a studier. I was the person who, if there's a movie about a book in school that we had to read for school, I would so be at Blockbuster running that movie.
Yeah. For sure.
Like,
Blockbuster. Oh, the good old days. The good old days.
Good old days. I would. It was like, there's Shakespeare. And I took a class called, I can't remember, Great Books or something. Like, why I did that, I have no idea. I think I just needed another class to take, and there was nothing else available. It was in high school. And so one of them, one of the books we were studying was, Shakespeare or Hamlet. And I was like, and that was when that Mel Gibson Hamlet movie came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, so renting that, not reading the book, renting.
Yeah. And it's hard because, like, I love the Book of Mormon, but I feel like I would rather read the New Testament.
Yeah, I know you're big on the New Testament.
Because, like, it's Jesus, first of all, but I don't know it as well. And so I want to read it. It's exciting to read.
Yeah.
And even like, preparing for this episode today, like it was fun to figure out what's before and what's after and really diving into it because it's also not all stories. Like when you have a bunch of parables and prophecy intertwined with the narrative part, I don't know, it's more interesting.
See, and I'm the absolute opposite because the Book of Mormon to me, the stories are really, because they seem real to me. They're real people.
Yeah.
That Lehi and his family were real people traveling into the wilderness, because God told them to.
Yeah.
Right? And Jesus is in the Book of Mormon a ton.
Yeah.
Like a ton. It's just that he's not physically there. And like he is now. And maybe that's why I relate to it, because he's not physically here now.
That's fair.
So it's more relatable to me to read about people that were living on faith of Jesus rather than being around Jesus.
Yeah.
But also, and this was an interesting fact that I didn't really realize, and I don't remember when it was, but like, I think even when I was little, it was reading the Book of Mormon was not, like when my mom was little, I remember her saying that like people didn't read the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, it wasn't until like the 80s where they like really made a push for it.
They really made a push for it, which is when I was little. And so people didn't know the Book of Mormon. They were reading the Bible because that's what they were taught.
Yeah.
And so I think they made a huge push to start reading the Book of Mormon because people weren't reading it.
Yeah.
And learning about it. Anyway, back to the parable that we've gotten off topic for. But it's fine because it all kind of ties in. So yeah, these 5 women didn't get to meet, go in with the bridegroom. He said, I don't know you. And this is where the parable is kind of like, I think the reason that they highlighted it so much in this conference is because they talked all about Jesus coming again, basically in this conference. And that's what that parable is all about. It's like, you're waiting for him. And when Jesus was alive, he was teaching the disciples in this time on Holy Week that they were going to lose him.
Yep.
At least in person.
Yeah.
But that he was going to come again. And then he rose 3 days later and they saw him come again. But then it was really but then he left again. And then it was really for our time to be like, he's going to come again. And we don't know the hour. And we don't know the time, the day, the year, the nothing. So we have to be prepared like the 5 virgins that came with the extra oil, because if we're not, at the final judgment is where, if we're not prepared, if we don't know him, like he says, and he doesn't know us, but I feel like it's more like if we don't know him, right?
Yeah.
Then we don't get to be with him forever.
Yeah, because being a disciple is not just about like doing what he says, it's having a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And even as I've, a lot of people have left the church, or you talk to people who have stayed, and like there's a lot of great accounts out there on Instagram that I've found where they talk about why they stay. And hands down, the number one thing people say is, I'm staying because I have a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like that's number one. It's not just a thing that you do on Sunday or a box that you check. It's an actual relationship with the person, because Christ is person. He's our brother. He's our savior.
Yeah.
He's all these things. As we're talking about, preparing for the second coming, we know that we will not know the hour or the day that he will come. But I want to refer to a verse in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. So this is the New Testament. This is, one of Paul's letters to the Thessalonians. And it talks about that we do not know perfectly the day of the Lord that will cometh, and it will come as a thief in the night. And this is a lot of times what people reference.
Yeah.
Like, you can't know it's going to come as a thief in the night. It's going to be when you don't expect it.
Right.
Even though we have all these, these prophecies of what's going to happen beforehand. But what we don't often remember is that there's verses after that. And so the thief in the night is verse 2. But if we read on, it says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, and that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light, and ye are children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Let us not sleep, as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And so the idea is that, sure, Christ is going to come as a thief in the night, in the same way that you never know when you're going to go into labor.
Yeah.
You don't know the hour.
No.
But you know when it's coming.
You do.
Because you've been pregnant for 9 months.
Yeah. And you know a general idea.
Yeah. And so the idea is that we're children of light, and we're paying attention, and we're watching, and we're being sober, which is to like, okay, so to be sober is to be vigilant or circumspect. So it's to like be very careful.
Right. Aware.
Yes, absolutely. And so we don't know when he will come, but we know what to look for.
Yeah.
And like, I still remember like COVID time.
Yes.
When there's a book out there, it does a book like 65 Signs of the Second Coming, and it sold out so fast.
I bet.
And I bought one. I did, just like everyone else. I bought a copy, and then he like updated it and made it 100 signs. And anyway, but like the idea is that we know those things that are supposed to happen before he comes.
Right.
So if we're paying attention.
Yeah.
Freaking worldwide pandemic. That's a sign of the times for sure.
Right.
Wars and rumors of wars, political dissension, you know,
still happening.
People, you know, fighting against each other, brother against brother. Like, there's so many things that we see today.
Yeah. The world is in unrest in so many ways.
Yes.
And it has been for a long time, but I feel like over the past few years, it's been a stark realization that like, even like back when, I don't know, like my parents always, you know, said the world is going to hell in a handbasket, right? And even from where, you know, it was back in the 80s and 90s and everybody thought it was so terrible, is nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing compared.
I mean, even if you just look at Israel and Palestine right now, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And Gaza and all this stuff that's happening. I mean, if you're over there, you're probably like, come on, Jesus, like, we're ready.
Right? If they know who Jesus is, but they don't. So they're like, who, Jesus who?
Yeah.
But I mean, you also look at this, the things within the gospel and the church that are happening faster.
Yep.
With all the temples.
Yeah.
That are going up every single time that he, I mean, it didn't used to be a thing. I don't think during conference that everybody would like have on their bingo card of what temple he's going to announce.
Yeah. I mean, I wish you'd go back and look at like when President Hinckley was prophet, because he's the one who hit 100.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So like,
but before that, it was like,
yeah, I mean, there's been talks where like, when I was a kid, there was 4 temples.
Yeah.
And now there's like 350.
I know.
That are announced.
I know.
We just expect it. Like, there's going to be another 15 temples announced.
Yeah.
But he does it always in the same talk with a caveat that Jesus is coming and he's hastening the work.
He is.
I mean, I even remember so we're in Las Vegas and we are getting a second temple. They are going to break ground soon. After having to fight the city crazy, because there's been some serious
they've
opposition.
Been fighting it. Yeah, they've been fighting it.
Yeah, they didn't like how tall our steeple was.
And they didn't like all the lights. That it was going to be too bright.
Yeah.
In the rural area, which is not rural at all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's sorry, not rural.
So it's been tricky, but I still remember thinking like, because this was like 2018 or 2019, we used to have endowment sessions every half an hour.
That's right.
And then they switched it to on the hour during the day, and it was only after 5:30 they would have it on the half an hour. And I was like, we're never going to get another temple.
Yeah.
We're not going enough. If they don't have enough patrons going,
that
they're having to put less sessions during the day.
Yeah.
We're never going to get another temple.
Yeah.
And so when they announced it, maybe it was a year ago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting another temple.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about this in Relief Society. I was like, you know, I thought it was about the saints in Las Vegas earning another temple. But it's not about that. No. The Lord's hastening his work.
Yep.
And he needs another temple so that we can do more work.
Yeah.
You know, bring more people to the church. through missionary work, through doing work in the temple, through, you know, educating people. Like it's his timeline again.
Yeah.
It's not because I think we shouldn't get a no one because we didn't earn it. It's about the Lord's timeline and be like, okay, we got to hurry up and go. Like there's work to be done.
I think everybody in the world deserves a temple. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not about a deserving one.
Yeah.
You know,
because some of it's logistics. Like you got to have enough priesthood holders to be able to operate the temple.
You do. It's about that brings me to the first talk that talked about the 10 virgins, which was Camille, what's her name? Camille Johnson, Relief Society General President. And I really loved, she was the first one to talk about it. And I really loved her talk. Her whole talk was just gold.
So just to remind everyone, she talked about the difference between being healed and being whole, and how there's a difference between the two.
There is. And this is where it brought into the 10 virgins, because, you know, she was talking about how we can be whole in Jesus Christ as we fill our lamps of healing oil.
Ooh.
Is what she was referring it to.
Love that.
So not just filling our lamps with, you know, oil for light, but healing oil. It's Jesus's healing oil that helps us to be healed of any sin, of any, you know, ailment, of anything that we have, and that builds our conversion and our testimony in Christ. And then when we have that built, when we have that healing oil within ourselves, where we know we've been healed and we know that we've been converted to Christ, is where we can share our light with other people. So it kind of brought back to me, when I was listening to it last night, I listened to this talk again last night, and I was like, because I really did feel for those 5 virgins that were like shut out. And I'm like, that's going to be me, man. I'm telling you. It's not going to be me. But I've always felt that way. I've always felt that way that like, you know, I've always kind of felt for the underdogs, because I'm like, you know, that's so me, because I've had so many trials in my life. I've had so many times in my life where I didn't believe that I was worthy to partake in the wedding feast, right? I didn't feel that way. And I've so many times in my life, and I've had to come to it slowly, where you have that healing oil from other people, and it's not because other people are sharing their oil with you. Right. It's what she pointed out was they're sharing their light, because the other 5 that had the oil, they couldn't share their oil, because just like you can share your testimony, which is kind of like sharing your light, but you can't make somebody have a testimony.
Yeah, and she even says, after she talks about the parable, she says that, you know, one of the ways that we can fill our lamps is by going to the temple, and she says we fill our lamps with the oil of conversion.
Oh, wait, that's the other one, yeah.
Oil of conversion, because we can share our testimony, our light with others, but for a person to truly be converted, that's in your heart.
Right, which is why you can't share it. I mean, you can't physically. It's like, what's that phrase, that you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink? Yeah. You know,
you can go to church all you want, but you can't be converted unless you let the Spirit in.
And that's so true. Like, for so many years, I went to church to go to church because I was raised in the church, and that's what you do. And then I realized, I'm like, why am I doing this? I never didn't know I believe in Jesus or believe in, you know, the church, but I didn't believe in myself enough to think that I mattered enough, or that I mattered enough to Jesus. It was like everybody else mattered to Jesus, and I understood why everybody else would matter to Jesus, but I didn't understand why I would matter to Jesus. So, because I didn't understand why I mattered to myself. And so that's where it's like when she said healing oil, and I'm like, that's what it is. You have to have a conversion that heals how you feel about yourself. Yeah. Because if you don't feel good enough yourself, then you won't think that anybody else will feel that way about you either. Yep.
You project your own self-doubt and whatever lack of self-worth onto other people.
Yeah. So, I mean, these other women that didn't get to go in with the bridegroom, you know, and we don't know their story or anything like that because it's a parable. But, you know, they needed that healing oil, but they didn't have it at the time.
Yeah. It makes me want to ask you a question. So those times when you felt like you weren't worthy of, you know, being one of the 5 wise virgins,
Mm-hmm.
do you ever feel like you like self-sabotaged?
Oh, totally.
Because you were like, she's not gonna let me in anyway.
Totally.
So I wonder,
all the time.
like, okay, I want to ask those listeners out there, like, do you ever feel like you don't try as hard because it's not going to happen anyway? It's not going to work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like you leave it up to luck. Like, we'll see if I have enough oil to make it until we last. But, you know, I'm not going to try too hard because it never works out for me anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that's exactly the mentality of it, because like I remember even saying, I remember being in the temple prep classes, and President Nelson and his wife were leading those classes, and they were, you know how they do the whole plan of salvation thing, and they're like, what's the plan of salvation, you know? And it's like, oh, I know what the plan of salvation is. It's like, you know, the celestial and the telestial and the terrestrial and everything like that.
And you're talking about the Nelsons in the stake, right? Not President Nelson.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think our listeners are like, the prophet taught your temple prep class.
I'm sorry. No, we have other Nelsons. Okay, that's a popular name.
And he was stake president.
He was stake president.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and I was like, you know, and I was like, after I went up and drew on the board the plan of salvation or whatever, and I'm like, and this is where I'll be, which was like the celestial kingdom. And he was like, well, why do you say that? And I'm like, I just feel like that's probably as far as I'm gonna get. You know. And so, and that's how I've always felt. And it was funny because I was talking to my mom in the Manti Temple. We always thought in the Manti Temple the celestial room, because in the Manti Temple, when I got my endowments, they had live sessions.
Right.
And so you would move to room,
mm-hmm.
right? And so there was the creation room, and then you go to the telestial room, and you go to the celestial room, right?
Yep.
And we always thought in the Manti Temple, the telestial room was the prettiest.
Oh.
To me. And my mom was like, I wonder if that says something about us. And my mom is kind of very sarcastic, like, and I get that from her. So I'm like, yeah, it's probably pretty telling that this is where we feel more comfortable. So, but that's how you feel. I mean, that's how you feel in those moments when you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like as hard as you try, that is probably all you'll attain. Like, you're a good person. You're not a bad person. You're not out there doing really horrible things,
mm-hmm.
you know? So the celestial kingdom is probably as far as you're going to get. And that's how you kind of feel or at least how I felt for most of the time.
Yeah.
Until I realized that, and sometimes I even find myself like falling back into that because I'm not perfect all the time. But I'm like, you know, I'm able to bring myself out of it now at this point, because I'm like, no, Jesus loves me. Jesus loves everybody, you know.
And here we are going back to, you have a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Right.
And that's what gets you back. I love that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's definitely a self-esteem issue.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people have now.
Yeah. And I would just challenge everyone listening to think about, like, if there's any part of you that worries that you're not going to be a wise virgin and you're not going to get let in,
mm-hmm.
you can do it.
Yeah.
Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you.
And the atonement is real. And he wants us all there.
Yeah.
And one thing that they mentioned in some of the talks that talked about it was that we know that all the 10 virgins had an invite to
mm-hmm.
the wedding feast.
Yeah.
So they're friends with the bridegroom. They're, in theory, members of the church, followers of Christ. He knows them. And so I think it's easy to think, like, to predict, okay, so when Jesus comes, it's going to be half and half. And, which is going to get split down the middle. Half of us are going to be ready, half of us are not. And I hope that's not the case. I hope it's not that kind of ratio. And I would challenge you to challenge that idea that when the wheat and tares are separated, that there will be more wise than foolish.
I think so.
Because we can do that work and be prepared. And we're getting plenty of prophetic warnings to be prepared. Not just from the prophet, but from all these 4 other talks, to be ready. He wants to have as many people as possible at that wedding feast.
I mean, I feel like as bad as we are as a people, because we have this body of, flesh and blood that, has all these needs and all these things that we're always battling, right? Mm-hmm. That he knows that. I mean, even look at the apostles when he was alive. Like, they all had their issues, and he picked from the dregs of society that the people didn't, that the Pharisees didn't like these people.
Yeah. Tax collectors and fishermen. Yeah. Yeah. No one of real import.
Right.
No one who's, he didn't pick any Pharisees that knew the law of Moses like the back of their hand.
Nope.
He's not just going to be like, okay, all the Relief Society presidents, you can come.
And all the bishops.
And all the bishops and all the people who have all of this, knowledge. He wants the ones that have the relationship.
Yeah.
And have the humility and have the desire to follow.
Well, and on that note, those are just people too. Like the bishops and the Relief Society presidents, and they're still just people.
Yep.
With faults and flaws, and believe me, they make mistakes. You know?
And they may be they may look like they know what they're doing, but they may feel the same way that you have, where it's like, are you sure you made the right call? Are you sure you're gonna let me into the feast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it comes down to I struggle with this sometimes, but actually I think I'm a little bit okay with this, where I'm a little bit too forgiving of people in some ways. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm just such an optimist about people anyway. But where some people like just write people off, it's like, oh, well, you did this horrible thing, you made this, horrible mistake, and so you're just that person, But the atonement says otherwise. The atonement says you aren't what you did.
Yep.
You aren't the things that you did. You aren't the mistakes that you made. You're a person with feelings and with, aspirations, and that is fallible.
Yeah.
And it's really easy for some people to, most people I'd say, and it's not even really their fault, it's just kind of human nature, for people to judge based off of an act.
Yeah. We don't know their heart.
We don't. And so it's, I don't know, and maybe it's because I've been one of those people where I've just screwed up royally, and it's like, well, there you go. And that kind of brings me to I read the story.
Yes.
The story it was on the church website or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, this woman was talking about how she was going to the temple with the youth, her and her husband and the bishop, and they were taking this group of youth up to the temple. And she gets there. They were going to do baptisms for the dead. She gets there, and she goes in to scan her recommend.
Yeah.
And it is expired.
Oh, no.
So there she is with all of these kids and her husband and the bishop, and she ends up not being able to go into the temple. Yep. She has to wait in the lobby while her husband and the bishop and the other adults that went with the kids go down into the baptistry. Yep. Kind of sounds familiar to going into the wedding feast. Yeah. And she's being left out because she forgot to renew her temple recommend.
Yeah, and I love what she said, where she was trying to rack her brain about the last time she went to the temple.
Yeah.
She's like, has it really been that long since I've been? And she couldn't remember.
Right.
And I love the idea of like, if it's not a regular like part of your life.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't making it a priority.
Right.
She hadn't gone for herself. She was going for the youth as part of her calling. Yeah. Which is great. But she hadn't been making that effort on her own to go.
Right, which is why she forgot that it had been that long and her recommend was expired.
Yeah, and that's a very, very obvious parallel to like not being prepared.
Right.
And you literally can't go in.
So I mean, I love that was what I found when we were like kind of doing research on this. And I'm like, that is, a parallel of a problem that you'd have today. Yep. That would relate to this 10 virgins parable. And, you know, and I can totally relate to that for different reasons, not because my temporal recommend was expired, but because there was a time when I didn't have one. Yeah. A couple times, actually. And for mistakes that I'd made and for things that I was going through where I couldn't have a temporal recommend at the time. And, you know, there was a time where I thought, I'm not getting it back. Yeah. And if I, you know, talk about worrying about being prepared for the bridegroom or for, you know, when Christ comes, if you are not, you know, even prepared enough to go into the Lord's temple, you know, that I think that's why they tell us all the time, make sure that your temple recommend is up to date, keep it up to date, because that is part of being prepared for, you know, for times like this. But I mean, obviously she was able to go and get hers renewed right after that and then go again. But it was something that made her realize that she was not keeping herself prepared. Yeah. And it affected her ability to serve the youth that she was with. Yeah. And I mean, how embarrassing would that be? That would be so embarrassing. Oh, that would be so stressful. I would be like, oh my gosh, you know, there's the bishop, there's my husband here. I'm like, you know, I don't know. That would be hard. That would be hard. Yeah. But again, not as hard as like maybe not being able to get one. Yep. And that like I said, I have real experience with that. Not being able to get one is way worse than forgetting to renew it. Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, because we don't talk about stuff like that enough in the church. Oh yeah, but people have struggles and have times where they have to meet with the bishop, and that's a thing. And yeah, I'm sure our listeners would agree that like we don't talk about it enough, and that everyone has their times where they're struggling and need a little extra help. Yeah. And the time when you're in the repentance process is really hard. It is. And it's easy to like think the worst, that you aren't going to get it back or something's going to happen or whatever else. Yeah. And you know what? It was a hard time in my life, and it happened to be over COVID. I didn't want to say it. I was waiting for you to say it first, but it was extra awful because it was during COVID. It was during COVID. So, I mean, I guess in a saving grace kind of way, I couldn't have gone to the temple anyway because it was during COVID and it was shut down. Yeah. So that probably maybe made it slightly less of a sting. Yeah. But again, in that moment, not knowing when they were going to open the temples again, when they were going to open again, and if they opened again, was I able going to get my temple recommend back? Yeah. And so I was in a really low place of like, I'm not gonna be able to do this ever again, and this is really horrible. But I also grew a lot during that time of reflection, where there was no church, because this was really awful. It was so awful. I couldn't go to church. We couldn't go to church because nobody could go to church. I know, the time when you like are like holding on for just like something to grab onto. Like, I remember calling Melissa when they shut the churches down. Yeah. And like just losing it. Yeah. You're like, what are we going to do now? I can't live like this. Are you kidding me? You were so mad. I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, this is like the worst thing that could have happened on top of a worse thing. So
this is pretty bad. The Lord was really testing you there.
I was like, fine, just do me in. I'm fine. Whatever. I was ready to throw in the towel. I was like, fine, just forget it. But in that became light. There became a place for me to reflect on myself and to sit with Jesus, and for him to sit there with me and just not say anything and just be like, okay, here you are. What are you going to do now? And it ended up fine. But
yeah,
it was a very hard time. And so I do know that like the repentance process is hard, but it also is really cleansing.
Yeah.
Because you're in a make it or break it there.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going to,
lean in,
or you're going to pull away and decide to give up.
Yeah.
And those are your only two options really in those moments. It's really hard, but it's also really cleansing, and you come out of it a new person.
Absolutely.
That not a perfect person, because nobody is.
Yeah.
But a new person.
Yeah. And new in Christ too.
Yes. Anyway, enough about me.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, repentance is awesome, guys.
It is.
It's a fresh start. It's amazing.
Is.
Okay, so I want to pivot a little bit. Let's talk about the rest of chapter 25.
Okay.
So our two other parables that Christ talks about when he's talking to the people he's preaching to. So the second one after the parable of 10 virgins is the parable of the talents.
Oh, right.
So this is when he's got 3 people, and he gives the first man 10 talents, the second one 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the third one just 1.
Right.
And he's like, okay, go do your thing. And we'll come back and we'll talk later. And I just want to talk real quick about how much...
Wasn't it 5 and 2 and
maybe
1?
Maybe it is 5 and 2.
And then the 5 turned into 10.
Hold on.
I think.
You're right.
I think it's 5 and he turns it into 10.
Yeah, 5, 2, and 1 is what it is. Yep.
Wow.
Okay.
I remember this.
Okay, so a talent... They talk about giving them a bag of gold, and it would be 5 bags and 2 bags and 1 bag.
Right.
The other talk that referenced the parable of 10 virgins was from Elder Renlund, and his talk is called "Personal Preparation to Meet the Savior." So he's very blatantly talking about it. But he talks about the parable of 10 virgins, and then he talks about the parable of the talents right after. And we know that, and you can find this in the footnote, footnote 16. If you guys don't know, the footnotes in the talks in the last couple of years are remarkable. There's always so much goodness. Like, there's pages of footnotes with, like, quotes that they could have put in, but they didn't. Anyway, always check out the footnotes. So in the footnote of his, he says that a talent was about 6,000 denarii, which was roughly that 1 denarii was a day's wages for a laborer.
Okay.
And that a talent, which is like a bag of 6,000 denarii, is equivalent to 20 years of wages for an average worker.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yes. So I did the math. If you say that you make $70,000 a year, we'll just average it. I'm just throwing a number out there. Multiply that by 20. That's $1.5 million.
Wow. For 1 bag.
For 1 bag.
And so he gave one guy 5.
So yeah. So that's like, I can't do math.
20 million.
10 million.
Oh, 10 million.
Yeah. So we're talking a big chunk of change. So when he asked these people to steward over what they've been given, he's being serious. He's like, "Hey, I've given you this big hunk of change, and you need to do something with it. Like, go invest it. Go,
multiply
it. Go build housing for the poor, whatever." Like, he's like, "Okay, I've given you this thing to steward over. You need to go and do something with it." So he gives them, a certain amount of time, and then at some point he calls them all back. The first guy turns 5 into 10, and he says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things." $10 million is a few things. Okay.
So he doubles it to basically 20, right?
Yeah. So this makes me, okay, I'll get to it in a minute. He says, "If you've been faithful over a few things, I will make thee a ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord." And the same thing happens with the other guy. He says the exact same thing. "You've been faithful over few things. I'm going to give you more to rule over." And then the third guy who got 1, so he got,
1 million.
1 million. He says, then, so this is Matthew 25, verse 24. He says, "Then he which hath received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew that thou art an hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went in and hid the talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine." That's really hard to read. Okay.
So he basically
he was like, I was afraid.
Yeah, he basically stuck it under his mattress.
Yeah.
And sat on it.
Yep.
And then so he wouldn't lose any of it.
Yeah.
And he didn't use any of it, but he didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, and in verse 26, the Lord answered and said, "Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then on my coming I should have received mine own with usury," which probably means interest.
Probably.
I bet you it does.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that works for me. And he says, "Take therefore the talent from him and give it to them which have 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he hath given abundance. But for him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. Thou shalt be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Okay, so this is a big deal, guys.
Yeah.
Just like the 10 virgins, we got high stakes here. So first thing is, I love to point out that this guy who only had the 1 million was afraid.
Yes.
He operated from a place of fear because he didn't want to get in trouble. He didn't want to lose the money. Like, what if he made an investment and it was a bad thing and he lost the money? Like,
he was too scared to do anything.
Yes, he was paralyzed by fear. And so I want to liken that back to the parable of 10 virgins. We can be scared or we can prepare.
Yes.
And we know, when we talk about the second coming, there's the phrase the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard, guys. It's gonna be crazy. All the things say it's gonna be hard. And so we can kind of
no picnic.
Yeah, we can hide away in our houses and just kind of curl up in a ball and wait for Jesus to come.
Yeah, right. But you're not sharing your light that way.
Yes.
And you're not spreading it to other people who don't know about Jesus.
Yep. So the idea is that we are given talents, and it's funny that they call it a talent, and that's just the
money,
biblical money term. But I don't think it's a coincidence,
No.
Because when we think about talents and gifts, as in spiritual gifts, we were given both spiritual gifts and talents to be able to bless other people.
Yep.
And if you read in 1 Corinthians 13 or Doctrine and Covenants 46 or Moroni 10, they all say that your gifts are given to bless other people.
Yes. And
so when you have wealth like this given from God, we could go somewhere with that.
Right.
That he wants us to use it for good.
Absolutely.
So any kind of blessing that you're given, he wants you to use it to help other people.
So let me ask you, Melissa, because this just brought something to my mind.
Yes.
Of when was a time has there been a time in your life where you were paralyzed by fear to act and to do things that would have to share your light, to share your talents, and I'm asking this because I know that, that there was.
I'm trying to think of like a specific time.
I mean,
my mind is blanking now. Do you have a specific thing in mind?
Yeah, I feel like, okay, so I feel like when I met you, I feel like you were not the person that you are today.
Oh, not by a long shot.
And, you know, you were fine and pleasant or whatever, but it was, I felt like you were holding yourself back.
Yeah.
And part of that was probably out of fear.
Completely.
For a few different reasons.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you have this wonderful gift of writing.
Mm-hmm.
You have this wonderful gift of knowing how to research things, because she's like just amazing at researching
like to read,
things. She
you
does. But being able to extrapolate things from what you research and what you read, and then turn them into things that other people will want to hear about.
Yeah.
Right. And then like doing this podcast, for example, or, you know, trying to start a new exercise program or things like that. I feel like there were a lot of things that like you had wanted to do at a time and just were too paralyzed by fear to do it. Now,
that's totally the right phrase. Absolutely.
Yes. Because you didn't want to fail.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like I had the capacity to do it, like the mental bandwidth to do it, because my babies were young and it was exhausting and my mental health was not great and lots of other things. But I was just kind of going along to get along.
Yeah. And that's what I
was casual.
Yeah. Well, but you weren't, I don't think you were casual, because I could tell that you were very, you know, spiritually minded. I don't think it was that you were casual. I think that it was just that you didn't, you for whatever reason, and I know that the reasons are, but for many reasons you didn't think that you would be successful, or that you would be able to follow through with it.
Yeah.
Because of, you know, you didn't feel like you could.
Yeah.
And that's even like before the babies.
Yeah. I had a hard time finding direction.
Yeah.
And I didn't start writing until babies were like a year and a half old. Mm-hmm. And I've talked about this in other episodes from season 1, but postpartum depression totally wrecked me. Mm-hmm. And then I got on meds, and then I got my Pink Book of Mormon, and I got excited. And then President Nelson was like, "Hey, read the Book of Mormon in 3 months." And I was like, I'll read my pink one in 3 months. And I started writing, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Because I like had all these things to say.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I got that like push from the Spirit until that time that I could do it. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking like, if the prophet tells me to do something, I do it.
Yeah. And that's what's so.
But if other people tell me to do it, I don't usually do it. It's really hard. And if I want to do it, I second guess myself.
Right.
I will listen to God all day. If he tells me what to do, I will do it. I'm very obedient.
Yeah.
But if I have to come up with crap on my own, not a chance. I mean, I'm better than I used to be. Mm-hmm. But finding my own path has always been so hard for me, because I could say there's probably people in the church that struggle with this too, because you're told what to do, to follow the covenant path and check the boxes and do all the things and go to church and go to Mutual. And like, I knew how to follow the rules.
Right.
But part of sharing your light and filling your lamp with oil is finding your path.
Yes. And
finding your spiritual gifts. And that was a lot of what happened with me, you know, when I started writing, is that I realized I was good at it. And I could do it. Even if I had voices telling me, you know, people in my life telling me I couldn't do it, or I should stop and focus on my family. And I'm like, yeah, but I need something that's my own.
Yeah.
You know, I had to find my own path of what my spiritual gift was and how I was going to use it and how it was going to help myself and help other people. And that's a path you have to forge on your own. And that's kind of scary.
It is. And that's kind of like where you can get paralyzed by fear.
Totally.
And to decide to not do it.
Yeah.
To decide that it's easier to not do it. It's easier to bury it than it is to do it.
Because then you're not going to take a risk and get burned. And to that point, amongst all these talks, we have all these beautiful ideas of preparing for the second coming and sharing your light and all of that. And nowhere does it tell us what exactly we should do.
Right.
They say prepare and serve and share your light and be a missionary and go to the temple. I mean, yeah, they tell us to go to the temple. Everyone still wants to do that. So we can put that at the top of the list. But exactly all the stuff, all the other things that we could do, the fill in the blank of like how I should prepare for the second coming and what I should use my spiritual gifts to do or where I should serve, that's up to each one of us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part too, is like, how do we prepare? What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. And remember that there was a time, because this is where you've said that, you were always good at following the rules, and you were always good at following what Jesus wanted and what God wanted you to do. And then there was a time where you weren't sure what he wanted you to do.
I hate those times.
But it was kind of foreign to you because you felt like he'd always kind of guided you along. And I've always been the opposite, where I've been like, you know what? It would be really great if he told me what to do once. Yeah. Instead of just letting me flounder around like the idiot that I am and just being like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Why not? And, I kind of have the opposite experience where I feel like he's not guided me as much and kind of let me find my own way. Yeah. And maybe it's because we're different people in the sense that you were really good at following the rules and I'm really good at just taking a chance and taking a risk and being I had a boss, a former boss at work who used to say, you're really fearless. She's like, I don't know how you do that, where you just be like, somebody will come to you and be like, can you do this? And you'll just be like, sure, I can do that. Even if you're like buried in work and you aren't really sure if you can do it, you just do it anyway. And so she would call me fearless. And that's kind of how I've looked at like life, where it's just like, I've kind of just gone with my gut, and I've kind of just gone with, sometimes not my gut. Sometimes I should listen to my gut a little bit more because it's probably more right than anything else. But I'll go with my impulse sometimes too. Yeah. And so sometimes it's gut, sometimes it's impulse, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And that's the risk that I always take, and then I always feel like, well, maybe if God would just maybe guide me a little bit, then, but the reality is that God knows me. Yep. And God knows that I probably wouldn't listen anyway. Yeah. But there have been times where I have, where he's gotten my attention, where it was like, okay, I've screwed up really royally, and now I have no choice but to listen, because I know that I've like screwed up royally. And so, whereas Melissa is like, you want me to do this? Okay, I'll do that. And then when he stops talking to you, when he stops guiding you and says, okay, Melissa, you choose, and you're like, what?
No, that's not the deal we have.
I don't know how to comprehend that.
Yeah, and it's really hard because, like, when I was trying to make some big decisions, he wasn't giving me any direction. So I just had to, like, take it a step at a time and use the knowledge that I had and take my best guess.
And be a little fearless.
Yes. And there's been times where he's told me, you get to choose now. And I'm like, are you sure?
But didn't you always get to choose? Or maybe you just didn't think you did?
I did. Well, there was times he told me what to do and I just did it. But like, so I guess I'll get into detail here so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Be fearless.
Yes. Be vulnerable. So my ex-husband and I was told very clearly by the Spirit to marry him. Like early too. Like, you're going to marry him. period, the end. And I'd already fallen in love with him. So it wasn't like oh, okay. It was like, well, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're divorced now. So obviously it didn't turn out great. We're not going to go into detail on that. But this next time around, when I've been trying to figure out dating and all of that, I had lots of promptings about what kind of man to pursue and what kind of things to think about, and just little moments of like light where I could be like, oh, think about this and think about this type of man and, you know, set this boundary and, you know, like guideposts, I would say. But then kind of when it came down to it, it's funny. So I was thinking about this the other day. In October of 2022, I got a prompting at conference to compile all of the promptings I had about dating and marriage.
Really?
And then I met someone a month later.
Yes. Has it been that long?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
2.5 years.
What?
So, but the prompting I got was that I get to choose this time. And I still get so nervous every once in a while that I can't trust myself. It's
Right.
not about anyone else.
Right.
It's not about the guy I'm dating. That I can't trust my own intuition.
Right.
But see, what happened is along those lines, when I was trying to figure out if I was going to stay in my marriage or not, God wasn't giving me any direction.
Right. That's what I was referring to.
Yes. And I was praying like crazy. And I got a couple of things at the very end that ended up turning out different than I thought they would. But I knew that God was going to show up for me. He showed up in a different way, but he showed up. And what he taught me was to press forward and have faith in myself and to trust my gut, trust my intuition, trust all of the knowledge that I had gained in the gospel, in life, in relationships, and not need direction at every step of the way. And so he kind of taught me in the way that I needed, because he kind of let the reins out a little bit so that I could make that decision on my own.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and it was hard.
I remember that too.
And some days it's still hard. But he knew what I needed.
Right.
To find that confidence. Because I found it when I started writing, but only in that one niche of my life.
Right.
And so finding it in, all areas was huge. And eventually I got enough courage to, find a new career and go back to school. And now I'm doing that, and like to have the confidence to do that is huge. And a lot of my job is trusting my own voice in the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that.
Yeah.
And so if he hadn't let the reins out, I don't know that it would have felt okay to do it.
Yeah. You wouldn't have let yourself go to those places.
Yeah.
To do those things, to be able to make those choices for yourself.
Yeah.
And trust that you could make those choices. And a huge part of that, a huge part of you, I can see now in hindsight, like of you being able to do that was because of the relationship that you just got out of, where you had kind of not been able to trust yourself.
Yeah, I always deferred to him. I never trusted myself as like the person.
Right. And that's like when I first met you, that's the person that I met.
Yeah,
that's the person I met.
I was a follower. I was not leading or creating my own life the way I wanted it to be.
Right. It was like, whatever he said was the way it was.
Yeah.
And I could tell, I guess I couldn't tell initially, but as time went on, and then as you guys, came down to where you were getting divorced and whatever, is where I saw like, oh, okay, this person in Melissa that I thought I knew for all these years was not the person that she actually was.
Yeah.
And so I feel like our relationship like really grew after that,
Oh,
because
for sure.
because I was like, oh, well, Melissa is actually fun. You know? Sorry. I'm like Melissa's a really fun person.
Depressed Melissa is not fun. That's hysterical.
So it's okay because I know Melissa a long time, and she knows that I like just like keep it real, and I'll just be like saying, well, I didn't really realize you were that fun.
I'm very fun.
I know, she's very fun. She's very fun. And very smart and very witty and so many more things than I thought she was.
Thank you.
Initially.
Yeah. Being in a not so great marriage and being depressed kind of take away the spark.
Well, for sure. For sure. I mean, and that's where, you know, I going back to what I was talking about with myself and not having the confidence and the and what, you know, belief in myself that Jesus, you know, would care about me.
Yeah, or let you in.
Or let me in.
Yeah.
And you know, having, you know, being in a bad marriage and being depressed and basically having your light shut in.
Yeah.
It comes down to a lot of the reasons that people feel like they are the foolish virgins that don't make it is because of mental health too.
Yeah.
There's a big correlation there with
absolutely
with the way people feel about themselves is the reason that they don't think they're worthy.
Yeah, because you have these, you know, not rose-colored glasses, but like, you know, depression-colored glasses.
Black glasses.
Yeah, let's make that a new thing. Depression-colored glasses. Where everything
it's distorted.
Distorted is a perfect word. Everything just feels like it's never going to work out. And you can't imagine that someone would feel good towards you because you don't feel that way about yourself. So you're like, why would anyone feel, if I don't feel that way about myself, why would anyone like me or love me?
And it's hard to come out of that because you're just like, it's like being in a black fog.
Yeah.
It's like you can't see anything but black.
Yeah.
And if you can't see anything but black, there's no light. There's no light to show you, oh, hey, there's, you know, if you could see a little bit of light at the end there, then you would follow the light, right?
Yeah.
And you would go towards that light because you don't want to be in blackness. But if it's just black all the time and you have no sight, then how do you get out?
Yeah. It just feels worthless, and you just sit there and you're like, okay,
you're just like, okay,
here.
I mean, you know, why would I walk towards anything? I can't see anything.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just sit here and hope that something comes or someone comes and finds me.
Okay, that's a great segue. We've got the parable of talents, where we need to use our talents to help and multiply and be good stewards and, you know, use our talents for good. But if you are in that dark place and you can't see the light, that's why our next job from the parable of the sheep and the goats is to use our light to help others and to lift them where they stand.
Yes.
I had not remembered the parable of the sheep and the goats until I read it, because I feel like we don't talk about it as much.
I don't think so. Yeah.
It basically talks about, you know, that Christ will come again and he will gather everyone from all the nations. And again, this is Matthew 25, starts in verse 31. And he says he'll set the sheep on his right hand and his goats on the left. Let's see. And the king shall say unto them on the right hand, which is the sheep, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So the right hand is the good side. You want to be with the sheep.
Yeah.
You know, we always those verses from Peter, you know, feed my sheep. So the sheep are his followers. In verse 35, he says, for I was hungered and you gave me meat. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. And then we have all other verses that talk about similar things. Okay, so in 37, it says, and the righteous shall answer, like, when did we see you hungered or thirsty, Lord? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. And he says, anytime that you did this unto the least of my brethren, you did it unto me. And so, I mean, I know that verse, but I didn't realize it was part of this parable.
I didn't either.
And so we have to realize that, like, part of being a sheep to the good shepherd is caring for the least of those.
It's feeding his sheep.
And caring for those in need. And so if we go back to our mental health talk, when we have people in darkness, whether it's mental health, physical health, economic trouble, whatever, our job is to help those and lift up the hands that hang down.
Yeah.
And that's part of sharing our light. Because, you know, if we go back to our 10 virgins metaphor, maybe they can't afford the oil.
Maybe.
And maybe they need help. Maybe they need a ride to church.
Right.
Or they need an invitation to general conference. Or they just need someone to sit next to in church.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many little things that we can do to help share the light. And to be frank, that's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, to be frank.
Because the more that we were listening to conference, the more I was just like, we got to do something.
Yeah.
I was like, I just feel this urge to, like, do something. Like, I can't not do something after all of these talks. And Desiree and I talked about it. I'm like, we need to do some more podcast episodes.
Yeah. Well, and it goes into where, remember a few weeks before that, I had went to the temple and I had gotten this, like, massive, like, build a boat idea, you know, where, you know, Jesus, you know, this is where God told Nephi to build a boat. And it's like, how do I build a boat? And it's like, right. But I had gotten this, like, I went to the temple and all I could think about was, you know, I have people in my life with mental health struggles.
Yep.
I've had it a few times in my life, but not like anything. It's always been situational and usually of my own doing that I end up in that place. But I do have people who legitimately have, you know, real mental health struggles that are really close to me. And I was like, I really had this strong prompting that I needed to do something in that arena, but I don't really know what. And then I was kind of like going all over the place. I said, Melissa, do you want to build a boat with me? You know, it's New Year's Day. Actually, it was way a few weeks, but
that's
it was
right.
New
I was going to say,
Day.
it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. And so we went and had lunch, and I was like, we were talking about, you know, well, you know, you're in this field and, you know, I don't know how to do that field, but I know business and, you know, we were start talking about, like, you know, foundations and, like, you know, charities and things like that. But it doesn't really have any direction. Then, and I realized as time went on that, like, I really had to scale it.
Yes. Because it starts with a drop of oil. So you had this great idea and you realized you had to scale it back because you had to start somewhere. When Nephi built a boat, he had to make tools first.
Yeah.
So if we go back to Camille Johnson's talk in footnote 10, she has a quote from Elder Bednar who talks about the parable. And he says, we have an individual responsibility to keep our lamp of testimony burning and to obtain an ample supply of oil of conversion. There that is again. This precious oil is acquired one drop at a time, line upon line and precept upon precept, patiently and persistently. No shortcut is available. No last-minute flurry of preparation is possible. That's very well written.
That is.
But I just love the idea of, like, small steps.
Yes.
And so if you're feeling overwhelmed by this whole, like, yo, Jesus is coming thing.
He was always coming, by the way.
He was, but, you know, it's a little more urgent. It's one drop of oil.
Yeah.
At a time. It's not even a carafe of oil at a time. It's one drop.
And so you do have to take it, like, line upon line. And because for me, like, I had this big thing in the temple where it was like all these things and it was all coming into my brain at the same time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. And I'm one of those people who will just fearlessly jump in and start doing, right? I'll just start doing all kinds of things. But I felt like I kind of got paused because life happened. Like, you know, my husband suddenly lost his job and he did get another one. And it was just like, you know, my daughter had some things going on. And so, and I was like, oh, okay, I can't just drop everything and, you know, conjure up a boat. But
Yeah. You can't just 3D print a boat and be ready to go.
So where I was like, okay, maybe I have to slow down here a bit. And then conference happened and these talks happened. And I was like, that's why I was like, Melissa, let's just
start with the podcast.
Let's just podcast it away, man. And then we'll see where it goes from there. And that'll be a tool. And, maybe we'll get sharing our light that way and have people. Because my other thought was because it was all about mental health, because again, this person in my life that really needs some help, where I was like, oh, and I had the thought, which I realize now is probably from Satan, where I was like, we should keep religion out of it. Let's just make it mental health.
Yep.
And which is fine. Mental health is an issue, and I do believe it's an issue, especially in the greater Las Vegas area. I feel like there isn't enough of the right kind of help for people. And so that's where I was really kind of going. I'm like, but we don't want to like alienate people, and we don't want to keep people out. So maybe we should like keep Jesus out of it. And then that's where it was kind of like everything like stopped for me. Like everything was like the idea kind of like dried up from me at that point. Yeah. Because I was like, well, duh, you just kicked Jesus out.
You kicked him out of the bridegroom's feast.
I took over the bridegroom's feast and said, get out, Jesus. But not because I don't love Jesus, but because I was trying to be inclusive, and that was a really stupid thing to do because, if I want to share my light, I have to share the Jesus.
Yeah.
Or it just doesn't work.
Yep.
And some people may be offended by that, and they will just have to be until they're not,
Yeah. And part of why we show up and help the least of these is because of our faith.
Yeah.
Because we know we have gifts to give, and because we've been given gifts. Like, I just think about all of the, like when he tells in the parable of the talents, he tells them like, here's this thing to steward over. Like, take care of it, do something with it. And I want you guys to think about, like, what do you have in your life that God has given you to steward over? And how is he trying you in those areas to be like,
oh, Lord,
let me see if you can handle it. And if you do, over these few things, I will give you many things.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to, line upon line, because we all want to, be this gung-ho after conference and like change the world, change all of our habits overnight.
Every 6 months.
Which never happens.
Every 6 months I do that.
We're like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And you're like, and then you go back to work on Monday, and you're like, I'm too tired.
It's true.
But we don't have to make it a big thing. It's one drop of oil at a time. Yeah. And we can make a little bit of difference at a time. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do today. Yes. Is just have a bigger conversation about what these things mean, what we're being told, what the prophets are telling us, because it's obviously important if 4 people talked about it.
I know. And then all they talked about the rest of the time was Jesus is coming. Yeah. And go to the temple, and it was all about that.
Absolutely. And
like I can't remember a conference that was so direct.
Yeah.
In a long time. I mean, I feel like in other conferences there
and even outside of the topics about the second coming, the other things that they talked about were very direct.
Very direct. But I mean,
although I will say Oaks was the most chill this time. It was so crazy. And you know what I keep thinking is that he's going to be prophet soon.
That's right.
Because President Nelson is not doing great, because he was only at one session of conference.
I know.
So I wonder if he's trying to be less lawyerly.
Chill it. I know. But yeah, you're right, because he's usually the most direct one. I mean, that's what I mean is like other conferences, there will be certain talks that might be direct, and they're usually from Oaks. Yep. But this one, it was like every single one was just direct.
Yeah, I mean, even Holland's, when he opened it, that talk crushed me, where he was just telling that story, that little boy struggling to get up the stairs, and I was just like, we all struggle to get up our own stairs. And it's just like, I was such a mess during that talk. I was like the first one and I'm already bawling my brains out. But it should impact us.
Yeah.
It should feel like it's a big deal, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean we have to change our whole life around.
No.
Because God knows where we are
Mm-hmm.
and what we can handle.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to just push us in the right direction.
Yes. Well, he also knows our limitations too. He also knows that season in our life that we're in where we might have more bandwidth at times than others. And other times where we have not much bandwidth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's like for us, like we're taking a couple hours on a Friday night to record a podcast episode.
Yeah.
But we also took time to study beforehand
Mm-hmm.
and read the scriptures and reread the talks. And we're getting something out of it by preparing.
Yes.
And we're getting something out of it by talking and having cool insights and,
Mm-hmm.
and cool questions to ask in the moment. And we're just kind of going with the flow. And we hope that it will have an impact on you guys too. And it doesn't have to be huge.
No, it doesn't.
And I'm reminded of the quote that we use of why we started this podcast in the first place about articulate women.
Yeah.
And President Nelson talked about this quote in 2019 when he told all the women that we are the women that were foretold of, that we would be an impact on the growth of the church because of the women who were articulate and righteous in different ways from the world.
Yes.
And sharing your light doesn't have to be changing your career or moving to Africa or
No, I know.
some crazy thing. It can just be like, I want to talk about Jesus for a little bit today,
Yeah.
or I want to listen to a podcast about Jesus.
Yeah.
And having more of him in your life,
Mm-hmm.
whatever way that looks like, that can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as to close, I just want to encourage everyone to find a way to share your light.
Yes.
And to not bury your talents. And to put some oil in your lamp.
Yes. And to, just share your light with those that might not have any oil. You can't share your oil, but you can share your light until they're able to find their own oil.
Because sometimes we just need to believe that there's light out there. And believe that God's going to send someone to help us when we're having a hard time.
Because he is.
Yeah.
He is. Even if you don't see it now, you will. You might see it in hindsight that person that, was nice to you that day or smiled at you or made you laugh or something, that was God sending somebody to just give you something that day.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be big.
Yeah. But he's there. He wants you at the bridegroom's feast. So give yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Have some courage.
Yes.
We love you all. Thank you for listening.
And Jesus loves you.
Okay, until next time.